They called him the ghost of the Buster. For 20 years, security forces hunted a man whose face they had barely seen. The agencies had sketches, old photos, and stories, the terrifying stories. वो आदमी जिसने हिंदुस्तान की सबसे बड़ी सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस को स्लीपलेस नाइट्स दी थी, वो आदमी जो जंगल का बेटा भी था और उस जंगल का सबसे बड़ा डर भी. I am talking about Madvi Hidma. On November 18, 2025, the news finally broke. The ghost was dead, killed in a massive encounter in Andhra Pradesh. But कहानी यहाँ खत्म नहीं होती. So just days later, in the heart of India, that is New Delhi, at India Gate, the protesters raised slogans not against the government or not against something, the air pollution or something, but for him. Madhvi Hidma Amar Rahe. Why? Why are the people in the capital mourning a man labeled as a terrorist by the state? Today we decode the complete history of Madhvi Hidma, his rise, his bloody reign, his death, and the controversy that refuses to die with him. So stay tuned. To understand the end, we must go back to the beginning. Hidma was born around 1981 in Puvarati village. I might be spelling it wrong. It is Puvarati village. That is in Sukma. एक ऐसी जगह जहां ना सड़क थी, ना स्कूल, ना सरकार. कहा जाता है कि हिडमा ने सिर्फ 10 तक की पढ़ाई कर रखी थी, लेकिन जंगल वॉरफेयर में उसने पीएचडी कर रखी थी. He joined the Maoist movement in the late 90s. So unlike the top Naxalites, जो अनपढ़ हुआ करते थे, who were often or either they were intellectuals from Andhra or Telangana, Hidma was a local tribe. Firstly, he knew every stream, every cave, and every shortcut to Dankankarana forest, the local connection that made him way more dangerous. So basically, he rose quickly from being a foot soldier to the commander of the lethal PLGA battalion, that is number 1. This wasn't just any unit; it was a guard of the Maoist leadership. Basically, ये जो एक battalion होती थी, they used to guard all the Naxalites in the area and nearby areas. So, and they actually carried modern weapons and warfare, that is AK-47s, INSAS rifles that were basically looted from the security forces. Under Hidma, Battalion 1 became a literal killing machine. Basically, Hidma was just not a hide and seek player. He was a master of the ambush. If you guys have heard about the news, in April 2010, in Dantewada, 76 CRPF Jawans were massacred basically in the forest area, and it was called as the intelligence failure, maybe, but it was an on-ground Hidma's tactical brain. उस हमले से बेसिकली पूरा का पूरा उस हमले ने उस पूरे देश को हिला दिया था, लेकिन हिडमा रुका नहीं.
उनके उनके बेटों को अंदर लगे उतना हम देख पाए. उसके बाद जब इतनी फायरिंग शुरू हो गई तो हमको गोली लगी. गाड़ी हमारे साथ 3 साथी जो बैठे तो तीनों मारे गए ऑन स्पॉट वहीं पर. तो हम तुरंत नीचे आके लेट गए थे. हमारे जस्ट बगल में महेंद्र कर्मा आके लेट गया. वो उनकी गाड़ी बगल में खड़ी थी और फूलो देवी नेता MLA एक्स MLA आके वो लेटी हुई थी तीनों. करीब वो लोग गाड़ी लगातार फायरिंग, मतलब इस तरह से फायरिंग कर रहे थे जैसे मतलब कोई सेना मतलब युद्ध लड़ने आती दूसरे देश से. और हमको लगा कि जब 1 घंटे से लगातार फायरिंग चल रही.
So basically, moving forward, in 2013 in Jiram Ghati, the entire top leadership of the Chhattisgarh Congress Party was wiped out within hours by the Maoists. Basically, 27 people were killed. It was a political assassination that was carried out with military precision. Hidma was the mastermind. By 2021, he was no longer just a commander. He was elevated to the central committee of the CPI of the Maoists, the youngest member basically, and a rare tribal face in the top decision-making bodies. At that time, he had carried a bounty of over 1 crore rupees. And then what happened? Security forces launched operations after operations. That is, if you heard about Operation Prahar, Operation Samadhan, but every time somehow he slipped away. It was rumored that he had a 4-layer security ring. वो कहते हैं ना, जंगल उसी की सुनता था. So basically, fast forward to late 2024 and initial 25, the government had set a deadline. Kindly end this left-wing extremism by March 25. The pressure in Chhattisgarh became basically unbearable, and as a result, Hidma had to move on. So intelligence agencies को खबर मिली कि हिडमा छत्तीसगढ़ छोड़ के आंध्रा एंड उड़ीसा के बॉर्डर वाले इलाकों में शरण लेने जा रहा है. सो फर्स्ट मिस्टेक मेड बाय हिम बिकॉज दे एंटी नक्सल फोर्सेस वर बेसिकली वेटिंग फॉर हिम टू डू सच एन एक्टिविटी, बिकॉज जहां पे वो छत्तीसगढ़ में था, हिज एरिया, सो ही वाज द किंग देयर, बट ही जस्ट मूव्ड ऑन टू दोज areas, and in the dense forests of basically Maridulummi, Aluri, Sitaram, Raju district was basically the trap was set up. The operation that was led by the Greyhounds, the Andhra's elite anti-Naxal force, widely considered as the best in jungle in these type of unit warfares. So on the morning of November 18, 2025, the Greyhound intercepted Hidma's group basically. It wasn't one of the one-sided fights that the anti-Naxalite forces just killed him, but it was an encounter that lasted for hours and hours. But this time, the ghost has nowhere to run, basically. So by afternoon, it was confirmed Madvi Himda, his wife Raje, and four other top cadres were totally dead. The photos were released, showed the man who had been a ghost or a mystery for over 2 decades, finally restless on the floor. So coming to November 23, 2025, here comes the twist. Basically, Hidma died in Andhra Pradesh, basically border areas of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, but the fire spread to Delhi. And शुरुआत हुई सिर्फ साफ हवा की मांग से. Basically, there were protests arranged and carried out against the poor air quality of Delhi, जो almost हर किसी को पता है, at India Gate. लेकिन अचानक से posters बदल गए, नारे बदल गए, and it was just a demand for a clean air, but it suddenly the posters changed and the slogans changed. So basically, a section of the protesters, allegedly from the student organizations, मुझे लगता है JNU से ही होंगे, started chanting "Madvi Himda Amar Rahe, long live Madvi, long live Madvi." But they had posters comparing him to the legendary tribal freedom fighter Birsa Munda. The police were totally stunned. Pepper sprays were used against the cops, something that was very rare in the Delhi protest. Over 15 people were arrested, but the question arises, why? So basically, there are two sides of this massive divides. First, there is the states divide. Hidma was a terrorist, a mass murderer responsible for killing hundreds of Jawans and civilians, supporting that in sedition. And if we come towards the protesters' view, so to his support, Hidma wasn't a terrorist. As per the protesters, he wasn't a terrorist. He was a symbol of resistance against the corporate mining and the displacement of the tribals in Bastar. Basically, they argued that the state labels any they that the state labels anyone fighting for the forest rights are Maoist. And basically, ये लड़ाई सिर्फ बंदूक की नहीं थी. It was a narrative fight. ये एक narrative की लड़ाई बन चुकी थी. People said that what was he a butcher of innocent men, or was he the last line of defense in the tribals losing a home? The Delhi protests show that even after his death, Hidma की ideology फिर भी sympathize करती है, even in urban India. So I would just like to conclude by saying that with Hidma gone, basically now the backbone of the Maoist movement in central India basically is broken, and the government is closer than ever to its the goal of नक्सल मुक्त भारत बाय 2026. लेकिन दिल्ली की सड़कों पे हुई वो नारेबाजी एक सवाल छोड़ गई है. Can you kill an insurgency just by killing its leader, or will the grievance of the tribal belt will give birth to a new Hidma tomorrow? What do you think? Were the protests in Delhi a valid expression of dissent, or it was just glorifying terrorism? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dive into the India's internal security. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.